Wagwan people. How you guys doing? Welcome to my second video. A lot has happened this week. Yeah. Up until recently, I had two internships. The reason why I thought it was a good idea to get a second internship was because of fear. I was afraid that once I graduate, I'll be unemployed. That's one of my biggest fears right now, to be honest. And fear drove me to doing something that I didn't want to. It drove me into doing something that's not ideal. Fear also stops you from reaching your potential, from accomplishing your goals. Fear stops you from asking your crush out on a date. Fear stops you from, taking the leap of faith that could actually change your life for the better. I felt, this unpleasant emotion many times in my life, and looking back at some of the missed opportunities, regret has never felt any worse. But it's normal. We're human beings, and it's part and parcel of who we are and what we do. Seneca is an ancient philosopher, born 4 BC. That's 4 years before Jesus was born, in what's now Spain. He said that we suffer more often in our imagination than in reality. This is quite true. You realize that most of the things that you're afraid of are actually, spun up in your head. And I came across this quote when I was watching a TED talk by Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is a acclaimed investor, advisor. He invested in Uber and Facebook, Alibaba when they're all still small and uprising. He's written many books. His most famous one, The 4-Hour Work Week, which I highly recommend. So his TED talk titled "Why You Should Define Your Fears Instead of Your Goals" is one of my favorite TED talks of all time. And in this TED talk, he speaks about a lot of things, a lot of valuable things. But what stuck with me the most was fear setting. Exactly, fear setting. So instead of setting your goals, set your fears. It's the same thing. By same thing, I mean the way that you set your goals is the same way that you set your fears. Yeah. So it's in 3 steps. So the first step is you write down all your major decisions that you're contemplating right now. Asking your crush out on a date, joining idols, writing your first blog, asking for a promotion, whatever it may be. Write those down. And then for each of those points, you write down your biggest fears. Write down the worst possible things that you think are going to happen. If you ask a crush out, what's the worst thing that could happen? Write them all down. And then in the second step, for each of these fears that you listed, write down, ask yourself actually, what could I do to prevent or at least decrease the likelihood of these things happening, to decrease the likelihood of my worst fears coming to life. So write it down. So you join idols, you think that you're gonna win the wooden mic. So write down, okay, you're gonna win the wooden mic. How could you prevent that? Maybe you've got a friend who's a good singer. Go audition for them, get their feedback, ask what they do, to train their singing voice. If you're close to a music school or an opera house, go speak to the professionals, ask them for their advice. Just anything that you can do, that's within your budget, of course, to try and at least stop you and prevent you from winning the wooden mic, if that's one of your worst fears for joining idols, stopping you from joining idols. And the third thing, so after you've defined your fears, after you've written down, the things that you could do to prevent your fears from happening, or at least decrease the likelihood, you could then ask yourself, if the worst things do happen, what can you do to repair the damage? Even a little bit, even if it's minute. So you join idols, you win the wooden mic. What next? I mean, you could run with it, own it. It's your word on mic. You get lots of publicity off that. Think about what it'll do for your brand, your social media following. You could spin it off. Start a blog, start getting endorsed, start getting free stuff. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could spin a word on mic. So yeah, definitely. You could even put it in your CV. I would, definitely. Yeah. So just anything that you could do that even if your worst fear happens, if you get rejected from your crush asking or him on a date, or if you ask for a raise and then you don't get it, whatever you can do to just minimize, the effect, damage control as they call it. Yeah. So in my case, my fear is being unemployed. So one of the things that I wrote down in terms of what I could do to prevent my unemployment, or at least decrease the likelihood of me being unemployed, I could send applications daily, which I'm doing. Even asked for feedback on my CV, is it written in the right format, and all the like. I did that. So yeah, I'm on I think my third day of sending applications daily. Going so well. No replies yet, as usual, but hey. I could also state my intentions to my current internship, my first internship. So I sat down with the HR, I spoke to her, and she's like, you know what, there are vacancies opening up, so you just keep your head down, don't worry, we've got an eye on you. That's another thing I did. Yeah, So now I'm thinking, okay, let's say August comes, I graduate, but I don't get employed. How could I repair the damage? Well, I mean, you sit back and you think, you're like, okay, fine, I go home, free Wi-Fi, free food, no rent. Not bad. I mean, it's somewhere to start replanning. Okay, take a deep breath, back to the drawing board. I've got a master's. Let's see how we can make this work. Another thing I could do to repair the damage was I thought about going for a PhD. I do want to go for a PhD later on in my life. Yeah, but I mean, if the circumstances make me go for it now, why not? I'll definitely go for it. Yeah, and yeah, that's actually about it, really. I mean, so when I actually sat down and I wrote these things, I realized actually I didn't need to go for my second intern to get a second internship. I could just focus on where I am right now. Use my spare time wisely. I could try and connect with people who've actually gone through this transition before and asked, how did you do it? What advice do you have, for someone who's going through the same thing as you did? Yeah, that's essentially what I did. And I actually broke down my fear. Now I'm actually not afraid. Come August 24, when I graduate, I really, employed or not employed, I'm not as afraid as I was before, and I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and I can walk with the skip in my step again. Yeah, so this is something that this week has revealed to me that I'm really grateful for, and I encourage you guys to watch Tim Ferriss's TED Talk. Please watch it. Definitely, it's worth a watch. You can definitely get some insights out of that. There's a lot of things that he speaks about in there that I did not even touch on. Yeah, so you get in there. Have a good week. Oh, it's middle of the week now, so hope you're having a good week and you have a wonderful end to the week. Yeah, and stay blessed. Peace.